What up, folks? It's your boy Tim again, also known as Chicago. I'm on the move this time. As you can see, this video is titled Reparations. Could that even be done? I'm not necessarily a fan of reparations, and I'm going to tell you why. But before we get into that, I'm going to ask that you do what I always ask you to do. Subscribe. If you like what I got to say, feel free to hit the like button. If you do not like what I have to say, not only am I asking that you go ahead and hit the dislike button, go ahead and drop a comment. Let me know why. We can discuss that in the comments. I have no qualms about hearing opinions and actually, we can talk about it. We can hash it out in the comments. I have no problem with doing that. I respond to all comments. So, reparations. When you start talking reparations, most people think that it involves handing out cash, check, or something of direct value to defendants or descendants, not defendants, descendants of slavery, of the slave trade in America. I'm not a fan of just handing out checks like that, and I tend to agree with the argument to some degree coming from the white side, because a lot of people will tell you, well, I had nothing to do with it. It's 3, 4, 10 generations ago. Why should I, in 2021, have to cover the sins that my great-great-great-great-grandfather was involved in? And it is a legitimate argument. However, at the same time, I think that when African Americans say, listen, there's a lot of things that came out of the slave trade that has made it difficult for black people to catch up to white people, and there needs to be some type of handicap put in place to help African Americans, catch up and get an equal footing. I think that there is some legitimacy to that as well. So it's one of those deals where, somebody of Caucasian descent will say, look, I ain't got nothing to do with it. But at the same time, somebody of African American side would say, listen, but you're benefiting from it. And I think that there's an argument to be made there. Now, I am not a fan of handing out checks. I'm not a fan of just giving somebody some money so they can go out and buy a pair of Air Jordans or go out and get high or buy some new rims in the car. I don't think that that's, if you're going to do reparations, that is the worst way to do it. It's just going to piss off everybody. Certainly would piss off a lot of white people, but it would also piss off individuals like myself and a lot of fair-thinking African Americans too, because in reality, let's just face it, that's what a lot of white people think would happen anyway. Now, if they're going to do it, and I think that there is some validity to making an attempt at it, this is what I would recommend. First of all, education is probably one of the biggest proponents to success, or one of the biggest avenues to reaching success and being a valuable member of society. So I would definitely say that when it comes to being African American, maybe some discounts, if not free tuition, or some really big reductions in tuition loan interest rates and things of that nature. Maybe certain programs could be completely offered for free. Or, for instance, if you do this and you work in this particular career field, your loans are forgiven. Now, they actually do a lot of stuff like that already. I mean, there are plenty of grants and loans that are available to the African American community, and we've been taking them up on that for quite a while. So that's not something that has not already been thought of and even implemented to some degree. But I would also go further in that. I would also say the same thing, and I'm picking these particular fields because these are fields that African Americans were truly hammered in, and that, not just slavery, but well after slavery. And when I brought up education, because we know it was difficult for black people to attend a significant amount of higher learning institutions throughout America. And I'm talking well past slavery. We're in the 1900s, deep in the 1900s, and African Americans were not allowed to attend colleges and universities all over the country. So I would certainly say here we're making some reparations, so to speak, in the field of education, which is why I brought up education. Second field I would say is purchasing a home. I would say that when it comes to purchasing a home, we could make some gains by, maybe knocking a point or two off of a home loan for African Americans that can show that they were descendants of the slave trade. Once again, I'm bringing this up is because just like with education, this is an area where blacks were punished well after slavery. In fact, there are black people that are alive today that was fucked over when it comes to purchasing home loans. I believe it was Countrywide, Fifth Third Bank, and Toyota all have recently settled class action settlements that showed that they were giving higher interest loans to black people with the same credit score as white people. And I'm not talking hundreds of years ago, decades ago, 50 years. I'm talking about stuff that happened in the 2000s. All three of those corporations I just mentioned, Fifth Third Bank, Countrywide Financial, and Toyota Financing, all have been forced to pay back money from losing court battles that showed that they were actually discriminating against black people. So I would certainly say when it comes to purchasing a home, this is another area where we could make up, we could actually make up for some of the damage that we did. And once again, this is not helping people out so they can go buy rims and Jordans. We're talking about helping people out that's going to actually better American society. Education, people who are purchasing property or home loans. In my last one, which follows along the same line or mindset or logic in the train that I'm talking about, business. Individuals who want to purchase, businesses, people who want to buy property for a business. You want to open up a storefront, you need to buy the property for the store, you need to buy the land to put your business on, or you just want to take a business loan out to start something. This is another area, just like with student loans, you could give a few points off on the interest rate. And I'm bringing this up once again, just like with education, just like with buying a home. This is not stuff that affected blacks hundreds of years ago only, or decades ago. This is stuff that has affected black people in very, very recent times, particularly when it came to opening up businesses. Whole neighborhoods were pretty much out of bounds for a black person to open up a business. So there's no way to deny that black people, some of them that are living today, was not harmed by not being able to get business loans from banks that were discriminating against them. Or when they did get a business loan, they had to pay a higher interest rate because the bank that was giving them a loan was the only bank in town that would do it. So they were able to, gouge them a little bit or exploit them a little bit. So, and this is stuff that was happening well on into our lifetime. Like I said, I'm in my late 40s, and I can guarantee you this was happening throughout the 70s and 80s. So once again, this is an area where we could make up for a lot of the sins of the past, and we're helping somebody that's not going to just go and blow the money on rims or a pair of Jordans or get high with it. We're talking about somebody who's going to open up a business and help keep America functioning. So those are the three areas. I'm not really going to come up with anything more because I think those would be areas where we would be able to get a lot of bipartisan support, if you want to look at it from a political standpoint. And the reason why I say that is because even people who are completely against reparations admit what happened in the past was wrong. They just look at it like there's no way we can make up for all of that sin that was done back then. I'm giving you a way that we could make amends to some degree, and we're doing it in a way that benefits America. You're not just throwing $4,000 or $5,000 into the hands of every black person in the country like a stimulus check or something. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about putting money in the hands of people that will help promote generational wealth that black people were excluded from. I mean, having a home in your family means you have an asset of value that can be transferred down to the next level on and so forth. And that was happening a lot in the white community and pretty much non-existent in the black community because they could not really purchase homes, businesses, or anything of significant value. You could purchase a home, but it had to be in the worst area in town, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, you're not handing down anywhere near the same value in terms of, items or possessions that somebody of Caucasian nature could do because you weren't allowed really to access them. So those are the three things. I'd love to know what you guys think. Education, making amends in terms of education, whether it's loans or just giving them the education outright, a la Bernie Sanders. Purchasing property, particularly a personal home or personal dwelling for residents. I'm not saying give people free homes. I'm saying reduction in interest rates, pretty much an opposite of what was being done. Instead of giving black people higher interest rates, give them slightly lower interest. It doesn't have to be anywhere near free. You know, you take 2 or 3 points off of a home interest loan, that is a lot of money you're helping that person save. You know, so home loans, and then finally, like I mentioned earlier in the video, looking out for those who want to get involved in their own business, having a small business or something. Guy who wants to open up a hardware shop, maybe you give them half off on the property taxes that the business has to pay every year annually. So he's only paying 50% of his property taxes. Like I said, the same thing with the bank. The bank would give him a loan to purchase the brick and mortar shop. You could give him a couple points off of the mortgage for that shop, or the loan he takes out to have that shop built. Those 3 areas would absolutely go right back into keeping America great. Sounds like a very familiar slogan, keeping America great. I don't know whatever happened to that. But anyway, maybe somebody should put that on the hat. But yeah, something like that, I think that would satisfy a lot of people. You're never going to satisfy everybody. Let's get that out of the way. There's going to be people that, I don't care what you do, unless you want to just go around and put a shotgun to the back head of every white man on earth. That's about the only thing that's going to satisfy some of these people. Nothing you can do about that. I'm just talking about doing something where we can get bipartisan support, and you know, we can try to move on. But right now, the way we have viewed things for the most part has been, look, you got fucked over, get over it. And that's kind of what's been being pushed for the last 100 years or so. Yeah, we fucked you over, so what? Move on. And that has never worked, and that's why people are constantly fighting and pushing back. And they've done a few things, like I mentioned, a little bit of help with giving grants to go to schools for African Americans. There's been affirmative action at some businesses. That, you know, affirmative action definitely doesn't happen everywhere, but there's been some businesses where they've had affirmative action. And even with that small amount of provisions made for black people, there are a lot of white people that have pushed back from day one. There are people who were fighting not to have affirmative action implemented from day one. So just like you're not going to satisfy all blacks, you're not going to satisfy all whites either. I mean, you got some whites who don't give a shit about black people, and to some degree they wish that they were still in that situation. So they're damn sure are not going to want to make any kind of amends for what happened. So you can chalk that up on that side. They would be the opposite, but equivalent to those who want to put a shotgun to the head of every white person and blow their head off. This side wants them to still be kept in slavery and in bondage. So you're not going to satisfy them either. However, we're looking for the folks in the middle, and I think there is some middle ground to be made. I mean, in the video right here, I would like to know, what do you think of what I just suggested? Think it's fucking off the wall and crazy, or you think it might be a legitimate idea to help us move forward? Let me know in the comments. We'll talk about it then. Your boy Chicago out.